Ron DeSantis has no respect for the rule of law, and his antics involving immigrants and shipping them around to different states is going to be something that could land him in legal trouble. So what we'll look at here is this Salon article. It says Ron DeSantis has no respect for the rule of law. Now the Florida governor is facing real problems and potential legal jeopardy over his reckless political stunt. I have it's a bit of a long article, so I don't want to read the whole thing, but what I did is I cut out some key excerpts of the article, and I'm not able to put those up on screen, unfortunately, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read them out to you here. So Ron DeSantis has some real problems. This is the Salon article. No, we are not referring to the fact that he trails Donald Trump in the polls or to his awkwardness as a retail politician. Far more concerning are the criminal referrals and investigations surrounding the DeSantis administration's relocation of migrants from Texas to Massachusetts and California. Criminal investigations in which the Florida governor may have, through his own boasts, implicated himself. Last September, a group of 48 mostly Venezuelan migrants who had surrendered themselves to immigration officials upon crossing the border, many reportedly seeking asylum, were put on planes and flown from Texas to Martha's Vineyard at the behest and expense of the DeSantis administration. It is alleged that the migrants were lured onto the flights with false promises of employment, housing, educational opportunities, and other assistance. They were apparently provided with the official-looking materials such as a fake agency brochure that created the false impression that the trip was part of the normal immigration process. So these people got totally duped and totally misled into flying to Martha's Vineyard. So this is a bit later on in the article. It says, let's set aside the cruelty of exploiting vulnerable immigrants for political purposes. Worse still, the stunt was arguably criminal, and at least some of those involved appear to have been referred for prosecution by Texas law enforcement. As one author of this article noted when the story first broke, Texas law criminalizes unlawful restraint, intentionally restricting a person's movement or moving them from one place to another without consent. The law expressly says that there is no consent where there was deception, as well as force or intimidation. DeSantis has said that the migrants went voluntarily, but this is hardly a defense if they were deceived in any significant way, such as about where they were going, by whom, for what purpose, and what would be awaiting them. Texas also criminalizes the exploitation of children and the elderly, defined as illegal or improperly using someone for monetary or personal benefit. Children and elderly people were reportedly on board the flight to Martha's Vineyard. And the stunt certainly benefited DeSantis by gaining him media exposure. There was likely a fundraising benefit as well. DeSantis reportedly told top party donors about the Martha's Vineyard relocation before it happened and has used it to solicit campaign contributions. Oh shit. DeSantis is both his boastfulness and his egotism could be landing him in some legal water here. Legal hot water, that is. Texas, they criminalized exploitation of children and the elderly, defined as improperly using someone for monetary or personal benefit. And if DeSantis personally benefited, and as well monetarily benefited, well, it sounds like he's in violation of Texas law, does it not? So the next excerpt here, back to the article. It says there are other potential criminal violations emanating from this incident as well, both state and federal. Those range from the fraudulent use of personal information to human trafficking. After facts about the Martha's Vineyard trip started to emerge, the sheriff of Bexar County, Texas, Javier Salazar, announced a criminal investigation into the matter. The flights to Martha's Vineyard left from San Antonio in Salazar's jurisdiction. Recently, Sheriff Salazar disclosed that his agency had concluded its investigation and referred the case to the local prosecutor's office for charges to be filed. At this time, it is not publicly known whom he may have named or on charges, although state and although state felony and misdemeanor unlawful restraint is said to be among them. As if all that were not bad enough, news of Salazar's criminal referral came in close proximity to news of additional possible crimes implicating Desantis. The California Attorney General's office is investigating the case of 36 migrants who were recently abandoned outside a church building in Sacramento after being transported on 2 flights from El Paso. After California Attorney General Rob Bonta said that the evidence suggested that Florida officials were responsible and promised to aggressively investigate what he called the morally bankrupt incident, Florida authorities acknowledged responsibility. California's false imprisonment statute is similar to Texas's unlawful restraint law and also can be either a misdemeanor or a felony. California Governor Gavin Newsom has raised questions about kidnapping, a more serious felony defined as moving someone, through force or through fear. Florida officials countered that the relocations were voluntary and that the migrants had provided consent verbally and in writing. Legal analysis immediately began to question whether or not criminal charges could be brought and might extend to Desantis. He did little to just distance himself from the issue, declaring on a trip to the Arizona-Mexico border that the sanctuary jurisdictions in states like Massachusetts and California were part of the reason America has this problem, and saying when they have to deal with some of the fruits of that, they all of a sudden become very, very upset about that. DeSantis also said his administration's handling of the migrants had been debated and vetted by Florida legislators who had agreed to set aside millions for the program. No, dude, DeSantis is totally wrong here. People are not upset at the mere fact that we're having to deal with these migrants and we're having to do something with them. No, we're upset on the liberal side at the fact that these migrants are being put through unnecessary harm and anguish and fear and pain and suffering. That's what we're upset about, because we on the left here believe that people that are seeking to come to this country, okay, and they're seeking to build a better life for themselves, and if they're willing to go through the legal channels and go through the proper the proper authoritarian process to come to America, let them in, okay? I don't think Gavin Newsom is upset about having to potentially house and feed and deal with these migrants. We're upset that the Florida governor and other governors are so anti-immigrant that they're willing to perpetrate so much pain and suffering to these people. That's what's upsetting. But yeah, so pretty serious stuff here. Whether or not, this is going to result in serious legal trouble for DeSantis, it's a bit hard to say. It's a bit of a convoluted issue, and it's just too early to say. I think that it's possible. I think that he should be legally prosecuted, but we'll see what happens.